And you think you're going to have a study about women, you have more women in here.
They don't want to hear.
That's what I'm wondering. Maybe there's something wrong here. Well, I don't know what we could talk about tonight that none of them would want to hear. Tonight's Hannah.
3 of them teaching.
3 of them teaching.
2 plus the bishop.
Okay. Well, I know they all went over there. But there is a lot to learn. Hannah is one of those people that a lot of times people want to use as a subject for a Mother's Day sermon. Hannah probably lived toward the end of the Judges. From the context that we read, who was the last judge? Samuel. Samuel was the last judge. And he was a prophet. He was a prophet and judge, and served as priest. So, in that aspect, she had to be at the tail end because she's his mother. Now, the interesting part is how she came about, or he came about. Now, notice that. Now, there was a certain man, Ramathaim Zophim, of the mountains of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, and Ephraim. Quite a lot of generations there, which kind of leads to that point. Now, so what we first know is he's of the tribe of Ephraim. What tribe is she probably of?
Probably Ephraim.
Same. So, kind of begs the question, when Samuel serves as priest, how does that come about? Anyway, not part of our study tonight, just something I had thought. And he had 2 wives. The name one was Hannah, and the name of the other, Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Does this sound familiar? Who does it sound like?
Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel.
Leah and Rachel. Leah had children, Rachel did. But I think there was a different circumstance in that relationship. Of course, they're both being sisters. But there was a jealousy point. Now, I want to, like Rachel, we read that Elkanah loved Hannah. But unlike Leah, we don't read that he didn't love Peninnah. The man went up from his city yearly to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Also, the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. Okay, so what does that tell us about this man?
God-fearing.
God-fearing. Yeah, which tells us something about perhaps why circumstance happened they did. And notice that whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah all day the Lord had closed her womb. So why would he give her a double portion? Respected her?
I said favorite.
Favorite?
Apparently.
I think a little more than that, not just favorite. Notice, an arrival also provoked her severely to make her miserable because the Lord had closed her womb. So it was year by year when she went up to the house of the Lord that she provoked her, therefore she wept and did not eat. I think maybe Elkanah was trying to make up for her not having children. I think that was, he did definitely love her, and I think he cared about her, and he understood it hurt her that she didn't have children. And then you turn around on the other end, she don't have children, and you got this other woman. Notice I said woman, not wife, even though she is his wife, who is, as it says, provoked her severely to make her miserable. What's she doing? She's taunting her about her not having any children. She's I think she's jealous that he tries to make up to Hannah and can't see the blessing she has. We see people doing that today. Just look at the world. What you hear people wanting to take everything that a person's worked hard for and earned and give it to somebody that does nothing. That's where our politicians are. You know what that really is? It's just jealousy. I want to go with it. Now, this was something that was not Hannah's fault. Nothing she chose. And it's a reminder. Now notice, then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? Don't I take care of you? Now, I got to point out to you, this is the way a man thinks. You know, when sometimes we forget, we want to forget. I mean, in society today, they're trying to tell us that we're all the same, but they're the truth. Men think one way, women think another. Most women having children or not having children is a hurt to them. It's some type of fulfillment. And when we see husbands, we see our wives crying and we just can't understand why. What do? We try to fix it. What's the problem?
That's not what we
We don't know how to fix it. We don't understand it. It's like when a woman asks a husband what he's thinking about and he says nothing. You know why? Because women never think about nothing.
Right. Amen.
But men, they can sit there and for hours think about absolutely nothing. Huh? Now, I guarantee you there have been some times you just didn't know. They got this little box they go into back here. We don't have that box. But it's the same thing. When we see our wives crying, and even if we know what the problem is, usually we don't approach it in the right way.
No, he's telling her she shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah. You kind of tell her you need to stop.
Well, it's logic versus emotions.
Yes.
There you go. Logic versus emotions. And here's what I think about. He's saying, am I not better than you 10 sons? What happened when he dies? What was the point of having sons?
That's your retirement plan.
That's your retirement plan. Because usually the husband was so much older than the wife that he often died before she did. And if you go back and look at Ruth, the book of Ruth, and you see Naomi, what was Naomi's problem? She had no husband. What else?
No son.
Both her sons died. And it's interesting because the women tell her at the end of the book that her daughter-in-law is better than 10 sons to her.
I have to have a question. Which wife was first?
Don't know.
Because if it was the first wife that had no children, and then he married another one to have children, slap him in the face.
I understand that.
See,
We don't know
there's the
that.
emotional thing. He caused the problem.
We don't know that.
She could have said, ain't I better than another wife?
I mean,
Yeah, you see,
that's
I mean,
true.
that kind of puts a whole new perspective.
What if it's a second, what if Hannah's the second wife?
Well,
It's out of
then
love.
she shouldn't, then that's a whole nother.
Well, no, it's still that point, I don't have children, and you know, the thing of it is, these women were not partners in this household. In fact, if you go back, it says her rival, in fact, right up here, her rival.
Yeah.
Her rival. It was almost like they were in rivalry for his affections.
It doesn't say which one to raise, but I think you can infer that, but say you don't know, but it looks like Hannah might be the first. Then she comes along and does, she didn't have to. That was,
I mean, it's possible.
yeah, I mean, you don't know.
It's possible. And here's the reality. According to Jewish tradition, even though the law hadn't been handed down then, who would get most of the inheritance?
Very important side.
The one with the son. The firstborn son. Now, so it kind of gives us a point. So Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting at the seat by the doorpost of the tabernacle of the Lord. And notice, and she was bitterness of soul and prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. We tell people to do what? There should be chapter 1, verses 9 and 10. Then she made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant, and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. What does that make it?
That's right now.
She's making a Nazarite vow. And she goes on to, and it happened as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli watched her mouth. Now Hannah spoke in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she was drunk. Nah, she just entered. Most of us, when we pray silently, what do? Lips don't move. Eli saw her lips moving, wasn't hear anything, and soon. And notice, he says, how long will you be drunk? Put your wine away from you. Wow, where was she at?
Church house.
Church house in the tabernacle. And Hannah answered and said, no, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor intoxicating drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. What's she telling him there?
Explaining
It's
it.
explaining that she was praying, and it was something that she felt like she should pray, but it should be between her and the Lord. I think sometimes we forget something Jesus said when he was doing the Sermon on the Mount. And I hear some people sometimes, and I wonder if they realize some of the things they're praying sound more like something that they ought to be praying for in a closet, not in public prayer. This is what she was doing. She was praying a secret prayer between her and the Lord, addressing the problem, making a vow. I mean, what do you think Eli would have thought if he had heard her make that vow? If he's thinking she's drunk and then there's that vow, how many times do we hear people making vows and not keeping them? He'd probably question that too. And she goes on to say, do not consider your maidservant a wicked woman, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief I have spoken until now. Then Eli said, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have asked him. So once he understands she's not drinking, what? He Say, may God grant what you asked. And she said, let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. That's an interesting statement there. How many times do we have sorrow when we go to the Lord, and when we get done, we still have sorrow? I think part of this that helped her in doing not just what she prayed, but the answer Eli gave her.
She had been reassured with the situation, that no guarantee of a child, but she was assured that she had done all she could, and it was in God's hands.
And Eli even affirmed that and said, basically, I think he, even though it's not in there, when he says, and God bids to grant your petition, which you have asked him, is an affirmative, hopefully he will.
We don't know whether he spoke through the Spirit or just, since he was first.
Yeah, we don't know that, but my thought is, he didn't tell her you're going to get. All right, he didn't say will, he didn't say may, he didn't say grant your position, which you have asked of him. I think we're kind of missing an important verb there for it to be a complete affirmation. Other than that, his hope is she'll receive it. Now, verses 19-20 tells us, then they rose early in the morning and worshiped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. What does that say when it says the Lord remembered her? What does that tell us about her prayer?
He heard it.
He heard it, and heard it in such a way that he was going to give a positive answer to it. So it came to pass in the process of time that Hannah conceived and bore a son and called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked for him from the Lord. Okay, I'm not sure if that's what Samuel means, but it sure sounds like somewhere part of that is. Here's the reason she named him that. Now the interesting part is when it comes time to take him up, our time to go up to the house of the Lord, probably about a year later from when they were up there. Notice now the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, not until the child is weaned, then I will take him, that he may appear before the Lord and remain there forever. So what's she saying?
I'm going to keep my part of this vow
I'm going to keep it
when he's weaned.
when he's weaned. He's not ready to go yet. And if I go up there with you, I will have to keep my vow, and he's not ready to be there yet. Here's the truth. If everything happened immediately after they left the tabernacle, Samuel could be as young as 3 months old.
How old was it when the child was weaned?
Most agree he was probably either 3 or 4. And that would be for that time frame and everything, because, what do you have going on today that you didn't have then? They couldn't go to the corner market and get formula.
Right, I was saying, at first restoration.
Yeah. And they had we have formula that they didn't have. They
They
didn't
don't
have
have refrigeration to carry this stuff.
that's it. So there was a point there that they understood they had to get that child to a certain age. Yes.
she, you know, you mentioned about her role and how having a child would change her life. The way she's answering her husband is a very different woman than the way she addressed him earlier in the story.
Yeah, yeah, well, you know, her countenance had changed.
Yes,
She wasn't sad anymore. And in fact, you know, it's kind of the point I'll point out a little later. We don't hear any more about, until the second chapter, her rival.
it appears her role in the household has changed.
Her role in the household has changed, and it's kind of like when Sarah had Isaac and Hagar had laughed and you know, looked down upon Sarah. When Isaac was born, that was over. Completely. It was over before that, but once Isaac was born, it's like, okay, she's got to go. And so I think that's kind of the point here is there's no more taunting her. She now has a son, and not only does she have a son, that son is an answer to a prayer. Now, somebody asked me one time, I told them children are a gift from God. Well, and I still believe that. But you know, right there, you can say, that's a gift from God. A direct gift from God. And so, you know, if somebody came taunting you, you can say, well, you only have one child. Yeah, but mine was given to me by the Lord. Where'd you get yours? I prayed a prayer and I made a vow, and the Lord looked favorably upon me. I kind of shut the noise up.
And it's interesting to notice how completely God is aware of all of our activities. He was aware that, you know, they're having sex and that would be a good time to have her work out so she'll have it. You know, God was even aware of that.
Yeah, here's the time to open her womb. And it goes on now. I thought about this when I was a kid, you know. Well, didn't Daddy get a say in what happened with Samuel? She promised him to the Lord forever. What about Elkanah? You think he got a say?
Well, he had his say when he said, let her, may God grant.
That's Eli.
Okay.
That's the priest, not the husband.
It doesn't appear that he does, but I have an idea he was in the loop.
Look, let me tell you something. Look at this right here, and I'm agree with you, Joey. Because look at this next verse. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, do what seems best to you. What? Keep him here till you wean him. But notice, only let the Lord establish his word, so the woman stayed and nursed her son until she had weaned him. I think she told him about the prayer and the vow on the way home when she conceived. He understood, and he said, you know what, you made a vow. And he's a man of the Lord. He's a God-fearing man. And he says, we have to keep that vow. He might even tell her, don't you get any second thoughts. You have a son, he's going to the Lord. You made a vow. And so, because he makes that statement, it hit me that only let the Lord establish his word. Okay, you can keep him till you're weaning, but once you wean him, he's going. Don't have any second thoughts. So I'm with you. He was in the loop. And once he knew what she had prayed, he agreed with it. Now notice, when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with 3 bulls, 1 ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. Then they slaughtered a bull and brought the child to Eli. Who's that? Who's that? Elkanah is there. When you get to the end of this, it says, and Elkanah went back to Ramah. So he's part of it. And she said, oh my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood by you here praying to the Lord. What's she saying? You remember when you thought I was drunk and I told you I was praying. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore I also have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord. So they worship the Lord there. About that word lent. It's very interesting. Didn't say give, lent. What's the difference there?
Well, he would always be her son and part of the family, but he would be in God's service.
There you go. I lent him to the Lord. I didn't disown him. I didn't just give him away. He's still my child. But he will reside here, be raised here. And as long as he lives, he will be lent to the Lord. Guess what she was teaching that child from an early age? You are to serve the Lord.
Imagine though, that was really difficult.
Mm.
I mean, even though they vowed it.
Oh, yeah.
Once he's born, I don't know, that would be hard.
NIV says, now I give him. So it's
Yeah,
another
well, I looked up
translation.
the Hebrew.
Hmm?
I looked up the Hebrew.
Yep.
That lens a little closer to the
Okay.
Hebrew. Yeah, thought giving on because it carries with us. What we're talking about is carry with it. If I give you a car, what does that say?
You don't have any ownership anymore.
I don't have any ownership. What if I say I loan you a car?
Still yours.
And you can use it as long as you need it. What does that mean?
Still yours.
When you're done with it, it comes back to me. Even if it falls apart and it's a piece of junk, that's fine. But you can't sell it, you can't do anything with it. That's kind of the point here that she's making. I'm lended to the Lord. He's mine. He's my child. And that's what Paul brought up. Look at the difficulty. It's not easy to give up a child. And you think it would have probably been easy. The sooner she gave him up, the easier it would be. That would be the thought, you know. But that's not true either. She had to establish that bond with him, and she loved him dearly, and it didn't matter when she gave him up, it wasn't going to be easy. Because this is a child she prayed for.
And something, just a side note, every year they went up.
And it was
Yeah,
her
we're going
only child.
Huh?
Her only child.
It was her only child at this time. But y'all getting a little ahead of that. But at the time she's given up, he's her only child. And she, you know, that point of lending him, that means a lot.
But she was his guidance also. Because he, as a child, didn't understand the depth of the bond of him and the Lord, but she was his mentor, her push, her guidance, more so than his dad, because it didn't happen to his dad, it happened to her.
Yeah.
He didn't pray for the son, he already had sons.
Well, in fact, what did he say?
Who?
I was given to you as 2 sons.
Yeah, right. He was trying to make.
Why are you worried about this problem that don't mean nothing? That's kind of was his attitude.
Right.
Though he cared about his wife, I think he's just frustrated that I'm doing so much for you, and in his mind, it looked like she didn't appreciate it.
And him being a priest, she had, in some sense, if you kind of look at it in this small thing, she had more faith than he did,
Well, now,
in a sense.
Elkanah was not a priest.
Oh, okay. It was.
Eli was a priest.
Okay.
But, yeah, well, she had faith that if she prayed about it, God would give it to her. That's true.
And he never encouraged it.
So, at the end of that chapter is where it says that Elkanah took his family home. Now, the interesting part, she has this prayer of praise, and I think it's worth going through, because it's really a prayer from the heart, a prayer that you can see what she feels about God and how He did. Notice, and Hannah prayed and said, "My heart rejoices in the Lord, my horn is exalted in the Lord. I smile at my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation." What enemies did she have?
His other one.
Peninnah, his other wife. No one is holy like the Lord, for there is none besides you, nor is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so very proudly. Let no arrogance come from your mouth, for the Lord is the God of knowledge, and by Him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and those who stumbled are girded with strength. Those who were full have hired themselves out for bread, and the hungry have ceased to hunger. Even the barren has borne 7, and she who has many children has become feeble. What do you think her thought is there? I think she counted having the one as worthy as having 7. And was pointing to the fact that the one that has many isn't having any anymore.
7 is also
That complete number,
a complete number, and you could look at him as being complete.
being complete.
So that could have that symbolism going.
Yeah. Notice the Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and lifts up. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the beggar from the ash heap, to set him among princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and He has set the world upon them. He will guard the feet of His saints, but the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength no man shall prevail. You see the understanding she has that a lot of people did. A lot of people don't have today. You know, you hear people, and this is no reflection on Donald Trump, but Donald Trump thinks he got where he is. How? By his own accomplishments. He's where he is today because of the Lord's handiwork. And he can fall just as quick, just as some others have. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken in pieces from heaven. He will thunder against them. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to His king and exalt the horn of His anointing. Then Elkanah went to his house at Ramah, but the child ministered to the Lord before Eli the priest. So before she left, she prayed this prayer. There is a verse in Hebrew that says, "Let us offer up the sacrifice, the fruit of our lips." I think sometimes we think about that, we just sing praises. I think Hannah's gave an example that sometimes when we pray, we need to acknowledge, Lord, this is what you've done. You've done it so many times before. We're asking for strength. Why? Because we know you give strength. And we know that whatever your wisdom, that far outweighs ours.
In that prayer, did she ask for anything, or she was just praising?
Just praising. You know what it really was? A prayer of praise, but also a prayer of thanksgiving. I'm leaving this child here. I'm keeping my vow. But she's giving thanks rags that he had given to.
It's almost like the passage or several passages. That God is opposed to the proud, and gives grace
To the humble.
Strength to the humble.
Yeah.
Not to make us.
Yeah, it is. And you know, there's something for years that we can figure out. God is really on the side of the underdog. Now, I'm not saying he don't help others, but at time and time again, when we study him, who does he help? The downtrodden, those that are being oppressed. When Jesus came preaching, who came to him to hear?
Poor.
The poor, the downtrodden. If you ever read the Matthew 5, the first part of the Sermon on the Mount, first 12 verses, the Beatitudes, and you really start out with those, you can really tell he is talking to the poor. He makes so many things, conclusions. Blessed are the meek. You think the Pharisees were going around saying, blessed are the meek? No. In fact, they were cursing the meek.
They were looking down at them.
They were looking down on them. They were the other extreme of the pendulum.
They were saying, blessed are the meek.
Yeah, blessed are the meek. You know, they were so busy patting themselves on the back. I always wondered when the Lord so many times said to them, have you never read? When he ever asked them, have you never read that Moses was the meekest man in all the earth? I understand it's better to be meek than to pat yourself on the back. But notice after she leaves him, but Samuel ministered before the Lord, even as a child wearing a linen ephod. Who was a linen ephod for? The priest. So I think in some way he kind of, in one aspect, answering that thought we had about how to become a priest, almost like he became an adopted son of Eli. That would put him in lineage for the priest. Moreover, his mother used to make him a little robe and bring it to him year by year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. So she never forgot about him. She never stopped taking care of him. I would say, in my mind, I'm thinking as a child, that'd probably be my favorite time of the year.
Do we have any idea how far they would have had to go?
From Ephraim to Shiloh, Raymond. I didn't think about that, but it was quite a distance. The mountain, the Ephraim, first of all, was mountainous. Shiloh was near the, it was in the mountains near the Jordan, not far from where Jericho was. Oh, actually, no, it's north of Jericho, extremely. And Ramoth, if I remember right, was west of Abraham, or Bethlehem, north of Jerusalem. So it's quite a distance. This is a map I got here. It wasn't a couple hours journey. This was days back then. You know, and most of that traveling was by foot. And that was, you know, that was why there was a requirement, unless you felt you had a specific need, that you only had to go up once a year. Because a lot of, you know, the nation was that way. travel that far. And it's also like even in Jesus' time, a lot of times when they go down for one thing, they'd stay. Like when Jesus died, a lot of people that came for the Passover stayed in Jerusalem till the Pentecost. Because even at that time, it wasn't easy travel. And if they were going to be there for both, we usually we have to stay. And that was 50 days.
It's a trip you have to rest up for too.
Yeah.
Right after.
And by the time Jesus' time came, this is why, the parents didn't know he was in the company. Nobody traveled alone.
It wasn't safe.
It wasn't safe. So, it was a good distance. Now, notice, and Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, the Lord give you descendants from this woman for the loan that was given to your Lord. Hey, here's that word again. Land loan. And then they would go to their home. So when they're having a visit, he would bless them. And bless that they, what? Have more descendants through her. And notice, and the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. So how many kids she had? 6 kids. This one more didn't make it 7. Meanwhile, the child Samuel grew before the Lord, and the rest of them just talks about Samuel. It's the last mention we have of Hannah. But it tells us something. She prayed for how many children?
1.
She prayed for 1, made a vow, kept that vow, and what God did? He blessed her 5 times more. It tells us something about if we're willing to make a sacrifice to the Lord, somewhere there's going to be some blessings coming about. There's a psalm in the book that says, surely heaven will be worth it all. What does that mean? That means no matter how many trials and tribulations we go through on this earth, heaven's going to do more than make up for it. Any questions?
She had to be up in years when all this started happening with children, huh? It's the one before it,
To realize she was
Evil
buried,
at 10.
you would think, usually, even at that time, it was around 14 or 15 usually. They were married. Think about the time of life, but even then, how long would it take to realize she was barren? Not having
A
children.
number of years.
Number of years. So probably, I would say she's probably between 20, around 25 when she realized she didn't, not going to have any children. And that didn't just, I'm not saying 25 when she made that vow. I'm thinking every year that went down the line. Because her sorrow was just growing more and more as she watched this other woman have these kids, and then her taunter on top of it with each one.
She mentioned enemies. The other woman could have had maidservants that also mistreated her.
Probably, and probably even the children.
Could have.
Who can be mean, so mean? Children can be really mean, and if they got a mean mama and the mama's talking, what do you think the children are doing? It's like we point about Rachel and Leah. As much grief as Rachel gave Leah, it's almost like the Lord says, watch this, I'm going to let her raise her kids. She raised Benjamin from a baby. And when Joseph is 17, Jacob even calls her his mother.
It know that it's him being the head of the household. And he brought in the two wives, and yet he kind of almost says, got after her, why are you weeping? Why didn't he stand up and correct them? Why didn't he make his household calm, pleasant, calm, and more sympathetic to the cause? See?
Well, you can't help but wonder too about it. Am I not better than 10 sons? To me,
It bothered him that she didn't recognize.
well, he thinks a lot of himself.
But he,
Look at how much I do for you and you don't appreciate it.
You know,
That's what I got from that. Look at how much I'm doing for you, and here you are weeping for a baby.
what a person.
No, he wasn't, but you gotta realize too this, when was this? When was this? And not today's society.
Relationships are different.
Relationships were different then.
She was a pack horse.
Well,
Marriages were arranged, you know, they weren't based on love.
you know, Leah and Rachel both, when Jacob talks to them about coming or going back home, they said, what's up here for us? Our father has sold us a property. And I think his deal, it probably helped him. It probably sitting there, I'm tired of all this week. I did way too much for you.
it's not what I paid for.
Yeah, it's not what and look at what I keep doing. And he truly loved her. And I think he was frustrated with it. Huh? Well, I think.
I said, that's why you should never have more than one wife. It causes lots
Well,
of-
that's one, that is, you know, that's the message I keep going every time we find all these different wives. Is, you know, look, what do they say? A happy wife's a happy life. When you start getting more wives, what's the chances more of them being unhappy?
Mhm.
You know,
Lots of
guaranteed. Look at Solomon. Look at what he writes on it.
2 women in one household.
Yeah, imagine 300.
They weren't.
Plus all in concubines. And so then he makes statement rights, you know, better to dwell in the corner of a rooftop than in a great house with a contentious woman. What's he saying? He wrote that 2 or 3 times. Jackie Steers when was done. It was almost like one of them on fine. He goes, oh yeah, by the way. We said, man, who would know better? He said, it don't matter how big that house is, you can't get away from her.
The fact that he was the wisest man to live, that always throws me off.
Let me tell you something.
That this wisest, and then there's 1,000 women. Somehow that just, I have trouble.
Being wise and being
Hey,
smart.
look,
Yeah, but, you know, that's.
I heard somebody-
He looked smart, he was really, really, really.
somebody said he was the stupidest wise man, never wisest man. And you know, he should have seen where this was going to lead. You know, look at his later life.
He
You know,
had poor judgment, even though he had the wisdom.
you know
He did
what?
not,
And who tends to make the biggest mistakes?
Smart people.
The smart.
They can make really big ones.
They can make, because
Especially smart people with a lot of power.
what do they start doing?
rationalize.
Trusting in their own wisdom. That's what happened to Solomon. He went from trusting in God's wisdom to trusting in his own wisdom. That's how he ended up with all those wives, making deals and everything.
It just seemed like, I don't know, after 50 or 100, somewhere in there, it would dawned on him that, you know, maybe this is a bad idea.
When you ever see people that try to keep doing something and making the same decision, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Well, they get the idea, well, sooner or later, it's got to get better. It's kind of like people that go to Vegas and lose everything they own. Why? Because sooner or later, I got to win.
Maybe
No,
that's
you
what it was.
Maybe he thought, sooner or later, I'll find a good one.
You hit the jackpot.
Now, somewhere, while we're on that, somewhere he found one he really loved because he wrote the Song of Solomon. The Shemite one. Now, the question is what happened afterwards?
Which one was it?
We don't know. Hopefully she wasn't one of the contentious ones. But my daddy said that sometimes you sit there and put that mark on that door when he left next morning. He said almost like he probably thought, 3 more years. Yeah, 3 years before I have to come back in this room. But you know, and it'd be the same way when women had husbands. You ever notice you never find anybody that women that marry 4 or 5 husbands, or even 1 or 2 or 3 at the same time. They got a little more sense than men sometimes. Any other comments or thoughts? What number you got, Joey?
926.
926. Let's sing this song.
Jesus is standing in my